Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Quantum Guide Show. Today, I'm very happy to bring back our panel of mystical mothers, Nina the Mystic and Jennifer Halcame. And for those of you who are not familiar, let me tell you a little bit about them. Nina was born and raised in Norway, but moved to Canada as a young adult to be with her family. While growing up, Nina had several spiritual experiences, including sleep paralysis for the first 42 years of her life, but it disappeared when she left Christianity and started to study the occult. Nina makes YouTube videos and offers private sessions for those who seek spiritual advice and guidance. You can see her website below for more information. She works as a mystic, but spends a lot of time being a truth seeker, combining all her knowledge to teach and grow with others, which has become a passion for her. Jennifer Halcame is a certified Reiki master teacher, healer, life coach, and psychic intuitive with over 30 years of experience. She is dedicated to helping others heal and align with their true path, and her link is also below. Today, we do a deep dive into the subject of death and dying and how we share our beliefs with the younger members of our family. All of the links are featured below in the description. Please do check me out, subscribe to my channels, leave me a comment, like my videos, and please do share my content with your friends. And I'm happy to announce that you can now join my YouTube channel to take advantage of my perks and help to support this podcast. Welcome, everybody. So without further ado, I will bring my guests onto the stage. Hi, Nina and Jennifer. How are you guys doing today?
Hi.
Hi, Karen. Doing wonderful.
Good. Now, it's kind of a deep subject today, and don't worry, there's no wrong answer. There's no right answer. There's no right, correct philosophy on this. You know, I respect everybody's positions and where they're coming from. I recently had a trip to the West Coast. Oh, and by the way, I want to thank Gary, Michael, May McGill for hosting for me while I was away. Did a great job. So while I was away, I was staying with family and my two granddaughters. I was spending quite a lot of time looking after them while their parents worked. And my daughter's family is very secular. So they don't really have a framework to pass on to their children to do with spirituality. And recently, a few family members have died. And the girls who just turned 6 were very upset because they asked, "Where's Grandpa gone?" And they were told, "Well, we buried him. He's buried in the ground. You won't see him anymore. And he's buried on the side of a hill. And that's where he is now. You just won't be seeing him anymore." And the girls were really upset. Then they lost their Uncle Rick, and they're very upset that we were just taking all these people, old people, and burying them in the ground and done with them. So I wanted to talk to them about death and dying. And so I'll get into it a little bit, but I just wanted to say how I came to this subject. And when you're dealing with grandchildren, we also have to respect what their parents, our grown children, want for them and believe. And it can be kind of dicey, but I still think as grandmothers, we can actually, or mothers, that we can actually do a great deal to not indoctrinate our grandchildren, but to give them some relief so they're not worrying and not upset. So I'll get a little bit more into what I told them. But I thought maybe, Jennifer, do you have any words of wisdom you want to add to this?
I agree with you. I think it's important to give them some sort of context to why they don't see these people anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And, even if it's not what they choose to believe as far as, what happens after, it gives them something to a seed to start developing those particular understandings.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it is hard for them when it's just something no one talks about, or they're not given satisfactory answers, like we just put them in the ground, you know? Yeah, yeah, because kids, they get very confused very easily with these things. But I also think that they have an understanding that adults don't have, because
Mhm.
they are not, so many years separated from what was before and what's after. Uh,
Mhm.
and sometimes if you catch them young enough, they can actually remember
Mhm.
where they
Mhm.
were before
Mhm.
and where they're going next before the whole world puts up blocks and tells them that's not true. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and thank you for that. And Nina, now Nina, I hope it's okay for me to say this, Nina, but Nina's of Viking roots. They had a very strong spiritual belief system, so the children were not afraid of death, not afraid of much, from what I understand, not being a historian or anything. But Nina, do you want to talk a little bit about that, or just talk about your own personal approach?
Yeah, I mean, I guess if you're an atheist, I guess you don't have much to say on that regard. So that's kind of too bad for the children, really, that they're not getting any spiritual education at all. And a matter of fact, the whole death thing seems kind of scary then, you know what I mean? Rather than telling them that, hey, it's just the body that's leaving, our actual soul moves on somewhere else. It sounds a lot, you know, more acceptable, I would think. But yeah, no, the old Viking, yeah, they had a big, huge, the Viking funeral where the little ship it's basically cremation, but done on the ocean, I guess, out in the water or something of water. But
Mhm.
um, yeah, I mean, before Christianity came in, there was a lot of spirituality there. And of course, the promise was that if you died in battle, that you would go to Valhalla. So that's
Mhm.
always interesting, so even for a kid, but yeah, let's go to Valhalla. So it doesn't seem as scary as in, oh, you get buried in the ground and then what? What if you wake
Mhm.
up in that coffin? You know what I mean? Like your mind would just start, going to places that's probably not the healthiest, so. I think it's
Mhm.
important to talk to them about it, but if you don't have any spiritual beliefs, then I guess you don't have much to talk about, I
Mhm.
guess. So,
Mhm.
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 yeah.
Yeah, their parents are very, very secular. It's not that they don't want to; they just don't really know. I mean, they're into Dungeons and Dragons and all that cool stuff, but they don't have. Of course, I raised my kids. Well, fortunately or unfortunately, I raised them in a cult. I raised them as Jehovah Witnesses. Long since have left that, and so have they. And it did offer some stability, but certainly not good answers and clear answers on anything. So now they're not really sure what they believe, and so they don't really pass anything spiritually on to the children. Now, what's interesting about these kids is like they both have had an amazing. They're twins, but not identical. And they both have an amazing understanding of concepts far beyond their years, which has always surprised me. I wouldn't be surprised if they were both gifted. Of course, maybe all the grandmas think that. I don't know. But when one of them was about 2 years old, I asked her if she was the great grandmother from her grandfather's side come back, because she had so much similarity in appearance, you know. And she was only 2, but she said, "Yes, yes, that's me." Like she identified with it right away. Now this time they're almost 6. I go back and I talk to them about it, and I'm showing them old photographs of family, including this great grandmother. So I asked her, just boldly asked her, "Do you remember when you were your great grandmother? Do you remember that?" And she says, "Not really," she says, but there's something about it that there's something about it. And then when I was talking to them about death and dying, and the way I explained it to them is that we live for a certain period of time here on earth in a body. Then we give up our body, but we have an invisible self that's here even when we're in our body. and that invisible self goes on to what I called magic land, which is a place where things are pretty cool and you get to have a really good life. And when you're ready to come back or go into another life, you get another body. And the one who identified as the great grandmother looks like her, so much like her. She said, "Oh, I get it. So we live for a while in our body, but we have an invisible spirit. Then we die. And then my invisible spirit goes and it goes places, and you call it magic land. So I think it's going to be really good there. And then if I want, I can come back just like I did with my great grandma, and I get to live over again." And she says, it's like a big circle. It just goes round and round. And I was shocked because, I mean, she was just turning 6. And here she was coming out with these gems of wisdom. So I think really, I tried not to indoctrinate them, but I think now they're not as afraid. And they also, when we went for walks and stuff, and we looked at dirt and flowers and bugs, and I told them, well, all of that breaks down and turns into the soil. Just like when we're buried, our bodies break down and turn into the soil, and we feed plants, and we allow things to grow so other things can live, but our spirit goes on. So it really helped a lot as far as putting their mind at ease and not worrying about grandpa and their uncle being just buried on a hill someplace. Mm-hmm. And they also understood to an amazing degree a fairly deep concept. I was quite surprised. So I thought I'd bring it up and see if you folks are able to talk to your grandchildren or your children, depending on your situation. I know, Jennifer, I'm rushing you. You're still in the children's stage. But yeah, just wanted to get your thoughts on all of that.
Honestly, I thought you explained that in a very, very wonderful way, and very easy for kids to grasp that concept. Because you're right, it's hard because it's a big concept that a lot of adults don't even really understand. But yeah, I think that's a wonderful way to describe it to them. I might have to use it with my grandkids. My kids, I guess they were a lot like me. My oldest son was, in the way that he was introduced at a very young age to death, and was taught not to be scared of it. Mm-hmm. That it doesn't mean that you cease to exist. I kind of explained to my oldest that it was kind of like living in a house, and then one day you go to work and you come home and your house is burnt down. It doesn't mean you cease to exist, that just that your house is gone. So at some point when you're ready, you'll find a new house, kind of thing. And it seemed to resonate with him pretty well. He's dealt with death. My youngest one only has experienced my mother, but he didn't come to see her or anything before she passed, because she was on the other side of the country. Mm-hmm. So I don't think it hit him as bad because she wasn't in his life on a daily basis. Mm-hmm. Whereas my oldest son called her every day and talked to her every day and spent summers with her and that kind of thing. So I may actually have to use your explanation, Karen, on my youngest son if it comes to that. But he's dealing with his dad having cancer, and he'll be gone soon. So I think we're really going to have to delve into the subject in the next year or so.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And thank you for your kind words, because, many of us were raised at a completely different time, and things were not explained to me. And I was just supposed to know. Well, I didn't know, and I was afraid of death for a really, really long time. Like, I'm ashamed to admit it, well into adulthood, until I started, especially experiencing the occult. That really helped me to relax. And on that happy note, Nina, what are your... Because
Yeah.
I know the occult actually straightened you out. People think it's the opposite, but it helps straighten you out from what I understand.
Yeah, for those of you who watched me on a previous show with Karen, you'll know that I was spiritually attacked for the first 42 years of my life. So it wasn't until I got out of Christianity that things started to calm down a little bit. But growing up in Norway, of course, as you know, 2,000 years ago or 1,500 years or whatever it was, we literally got beat over the head with you either convert to Christianity or you lose your head, literally. So everybody, over there calls themselves a Christian, of course, because you kind of have to, and it's all, holding hands with the state, church and state, so if you're not baptized, then you can't get married and all this kind of stuff. It's all just one big mafia, really, is what it is. And so growing up, with that story, I mean, that's horrible, of thinking that, oh, your loved one might be going to hell, so yeah, that's not very comforting at all, and if you really dive into the whole religion, they're basically saying that we're born a sinner, we're always a sinner, we can never get out of that. So technically then, according to what they're saying, is that everybody's going to hell, essentially, then, if that's the case. So it's not very comforting at all. You would think that, oh, religion will no, it doesn't. So getting out of that hole was very relaxing, honestly. Like you said, like just knowing that, I was just thinking about your kids, like, oh my God, does that mean that if my kids die now, they're going to hell? And like, it's horrible to think about, or your grandkids, they're born a sinner, they're gonna, so what I mean, like, it's horrible. So I hope that whoever's listening is kind of gotten out of that as well, and get a little bit more relaxed about the whole thing. I mean, that's one thing for sure. All of us are going to die one day, and nobody's getting out of here alive. So you might as well just relax and, just, what I mean? Yeah. Be ready for it, I guess, as much as you can. But I do believe, like, if there is a hell, I would say this is hell that we're in right now. You know what I mean? When we die, we actually go back to somewhere else. So, look at it that way, because there's not a lot of good things here, to be honest. There's moments, but a lot of it is struggle. Most of it is struggle, learning, So,
yep, I would totally agree with you. Now, another thing I did that's sort of like I wanted to start talking about death, because I'm not going to be around forever. I'm not that old, but you never know. Really, when you get into your 70s, every day's a bonus kind of thing, right? And I wanted to start preparing them so they wouldn't be sad. So another thing I did with them is one of the twins is very attached to me, very, very attached, and just so sad when I have to leave. And thank goodness, at least one of them. We won't get into that, but what I did was I said to them, to help prepare them too, I said, well, you know that you have a spirit body now, don't you? And they said, well, not really. And I said, well, what about when you're dreaming? When you're dreaming, do you go places and see things and do interesting things? And they said, yeah, we do. So I said, okay, why don't we start practicing this? When you're missing me, when you're sleep, this could make me cry a little bit. When you're sleeping at night, meet me. Sorry, it always chokes me up. I said, meet me in the rose garden. And they said, well, what do you mean? And I said, well, in your dreams, find the rose garden, go there and call me. Call me to join you. Sorry, in the rose garden. I'm sorry, I don't know what's the matter with me. I'm a silly old woman. And they said, that's a great idea. Can we do that tonight? And I said, yeah, you can do that tonight. You can start now. And they were so happy that they got to do this special activity with me while they're sleeping. So then a couple of days later, I would say to them, did you meet me in the rose garden? Did you look for me? Did you call me? They said, oh, we forgot. We're going to try again tonight. And they said to me, can we have a tea party there, or could we have a picnic there? I said, we can do anything we want, guys. We can even fly when we go there. It's an amazing, amazing place. I'm sorry. I don't know why I'm crying. I'm just an emotional old lady. anyway, so I told them that. So they started practicing while I was there. And I don't necessarily wake up with any huge transdimensional experiences with them. I might, I don't know, because that is sort of my forte. But it helped to get them used to that there's another part of them that can escape and have a place to go, find love, find joy, find good things. And I was hoping it would help prime them so that when the day comes, because I just love them so much. I have never loved anybody as much as I love my grandkids. I love my grown kids, but the grandkids, that's something real special. And I want them to be able to have an option where they can find me. So I'm hoping it works. It might not, but it's worth a shot, right?
I love that, Karen. I love that. And yeah, I might have to steal that one too.
Well, it's based on my own, like I've had all these transdimensional experiences. If I'm having them, I'm sure other people are too. Then when I listened to the podcast called the Telepathy Tapes, and I found out there's all kinds of people all over the world that are doing this. And then the more I, reach into the occult and into, I'm not into like heavy duty ritual magic or anything. But I'm certainly into hearing about all the possibilities. I think it's an amazing life if we let it be. And so if it can happen for me, can it happen for my grandchildren? Can it happen for other people? I'm sure it can. I'm under the impression that all we got to do really is practice. Let that possibility exist, float it out there, and then practice. And we might be surprised what we find. Nina, you got any thoughts on all that?
I just want to mention, because today happens to be Ozzy Osbourne's funeral.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, no, right? So he just had his last big Back to the Beginning concert there, like literally 2 weeks ago. And today is his funeral already. So I think he went on his own terms, like he was done. He's in a lot of pain and and whatever. So he, managed that whole thing himself, which I think is, a good thing as well. Why suffer for another, 3-4 years when you can just say goodbyes and then leave, you know what I mean? Like, so now I don't know where they stand as far as the spiritual side of it. I know he was known as sort of the Prince of Darkness, but that was all just a facade. They weren't into that stuff on the, at home, kind of thing. But yeah, it's very interesting. So that whole death thing is kind of lingering right now. And you mentioned a couple of people died. A lot of people are exiting now, I've noticed. And I predicted this last year that 2025, there's going to be a lot of deaths for different reasons. But yeah, it's starting to show now. I'm starting to hear it more and more. And, so be prepared for that. So be in a good place so that you're not lost, so you're not confused as to where your loved ones are or where you're going or whatever. So, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think desire is kind of like the rudder on our little boats, and what our intention is and what we really want, And I also think, and I could be way off course with this, but I also think that some of us are here, not necessarily, well, I think we're all here for soul evolution, but I think some of us are here to, I don't know how to describe this, to show what other people are about. And I'll give you an example. If you have people who are really harsh to you for, you're really working hard, trying to be a good person, and they just won't stop attacking you or telling lies about you or horrible stuff. It's almost like against us as a backdrop shows what those people are really about and shows what their true intentions are, because we know what's real and what's really happening and what's not. And I don't know if you guys have ever been accused of doing things that you never even would have thought of in a million years. Where the heck do they get that from? But they're convinced it's real. And often it's projection. And, let's face it, there's no shortage of narcissism and empathy deficient stuff going on. But I remember several times in my life, not saying I'm a perfect person, but I really, try to be a good person, always have. And I'd say, why is this happening to me? And it's like the whole experience is being kind of like being filmed or recorded through my soul, if that makes sense. Because sometimes I wonder, well, like what you said, Nina, maybe this is hell because there's a lot of shit going on this planet and in our societies, things that should not be happening. I hear the politicians talk about this and that, but nobody's talking about releasing the children from child trafficking and human trafficking. And oh my God, there's horrible stuff. Even the diseases that are being caused from greedy corporations and God knows what. I'm going to try not to go too far down that rabbit hole because it's pretty disturbing. But I'm going, isn't anybody else noticing this stuff? Should not be happening. This should not be happening. And so, sometimes I think maybe this is it. And maybe we're here not just to be a backdrop, like I mentioned, but also maybe we're here to prove that we don't have to be like that. Just because they're like that doesn't mean we have to be like that. We can actually make a difference. I don't know. I'm kind of screwed up in my thinking on that, but just thought I'd put that out there.
I think that's actually the downfall of us right now is the way that we are. I guess we got to lump ourselves in there, but yeah, just the amount of greed and power hungry. And, like you said, look at Gaza. Like, how can somebody do that to your neighbor? Like, and you're all screaming, oh, let's not forget. Well, what about that? What you're doing this? Like, yeah, it's just, I think, what's going on here is going to be our downfall. If we don't smarten the heck up real quick, other beings out there are probably looking at us thinking, you know what, there's no hope for these people. Like, you know what I mean? Let's start all over again. And I think that's happened a few times, to be honest with you. And I think we're kind of at that, point again here. So I sure hope that they smarten up, but it's not looking like it when you look at the news right now. It's, scary times, so yeah.
I thought long before now humans would get to the point where we just couldn't stand war anymore. I've been waiting for that day since I was about 14 years old, and I started going and hanging out with the hippies. Was the first time I ever even heard those concepts. And I thought that people would get tired of it, but nope, it's just crazy. And I wonder if people even realize what that actually means in the daily lives of the people that are living in those areas. I don't understand it. There's a lot I don't understand. I mean, partly why I do these podcasts is to try to understand, have other people on, hear what they have to say, see how they see things. And, but I do agree with both of you. Death is as natural as being born. It's an inevitability. It's something we all got to face, and we need to face it with some grace and wisdom. I see a lot of people my age just acting like remember the way teenagers acted in high school or even younger than that, just doing that all over again. And I'm going, aren't you preparing for your day of your death? Don't you realize you're going to die one day? You need to have your ducks in order. You need to have your situation. Have you said what you needed to say to people? Have you forgiven? Have you been forgiven? Like there's a lot that goes into being prepared before you pass over. I think, anyway. Maybe not. Maybe I take it all too seriously, and maybe it's, I don't know. My guides once told me, I was back when I was still worried about death. They told me, Karen, if you had any idea how many times you were born and died, you'd be laughing at yourself for worrying about this small thing. Apparently, it's a small thing.
There you go.
There you go. Yeah. Just like going to sleep. So I hear.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just my 2 cents. I don't think this is hell. I've always felt like this was school.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
and that at some point in human history, we got a little hijacked. And, we self actualize here. So your life is what you created, and I've heard people get very upset about this concept. And I'm like, 80% of what creates your life is your subconscious.
Mm-hmm.
So if, it's not about what's happened to you, it's about how you respond to that.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel the same way about death. What happens when you die is you self actualize. So whatever you believe it to be is what it will be.
Mm-hmm.
It's the world that you will create for yourself. But yeah, when it comes to death, I've always just seen it as a crossing of a veil. Like, they're still here. Most of my family's gone now, and I still talk to them. They all showed up for my wedding. It was the craziest thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, death is an old friend of mine. So I've never greeted him with fear.
Mm-hmm.
It's always, and I always felt like the Native Americans, those folks know how to die. They know how to pass on their wisdom to the next generation before they leave. I think we've lost that in our society. We've the grandkids, they don't respect the wisdom of the elders anymore. They don't want to hear it. They think they just don't understand, and they never will, which, all kids do.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not taught in the culture that there's a lot of valuable knowledge and wisdom that needs to be passed on in order to grow, instead of just being lost. So, in my house growing up, I grew up very Methodist, which, in case you guys don't know, is sort of the white wonder bread of Christianity. Not a whole lot of guilt involved. You show up on Sunday, you sing your hymns, and then you go out in the parking lot and have a cigarette, and everybody goes and does their thing. So there's not like a whole lot of guilt involved in the way you should live your day-to-day life. But it kind of left me with a very simple explanation that didn't make any sense to me about death. So at a very young age, I just decided that since we all do it, we all have to go through it. We never know when it's actually going to happen. That you should just make friends with him and, dance the dance when it's time. And I've helped so many people die at this point in time. I quit counting years ago how many times I've seen people, cross that veil, and they don't leave you. It's like they're just a thin dimension away, and they communicate all the time, and they try to help us out and guide us and protect us. And sometimes they're just assholes and try to hurt us, but you never know with your family, But I've just never felt like this was hell. I've always felt like it is what you make it. And if those are the lessons that you need to learn while you're here, then those are the ones that you go through. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I look at it as a school too, except I always felt that school was hell. So,
you need good teachers. That's all.
Well, that's it. When I was growing up, my home life was so dysfunctional that I couldn't function in school. So
yeah.
So there's that. So, but that's what I needed to go through. So, but the whole religion thing, I think is the reason why we don't talk about death is because of the religious scarcity, about going to hell and all of this. So we just don't talk about it. I think that's my understanding anyways, of why we don't really talk about it versus the natives. They're very more open about that whole thing, and just the way they go about it. It's part of life, and we should embrace it and not look forward to it, but, prepare for it and all that kind of stuff, instead of just ignoring it. And, and the poor kids, who might have questions, they're not getting any answers because the adults don't want to talk about it, so it's a shame. Yeah.
It is, because honestly, it can be quite beautiful. My mother, when she passed about 4 years ago now, she was greeted with angels. And, my dad showed up a couple of days before, and he just kind of hung around the house and tried to make her less fearful of what was coming. And but they did. I saw them. Two of them showed up, and she was not scared. At that time, but to me, I never saw it as like this hurtful thing. It's a very natural progression to the next phase of life, because you don't stop living. Your soul goes on. There's still life there, and so I think teaching the kids that it doesn't mean an end; it's a new beginning. And that life goes on. It goes on in this dimension, and it goes on in the next. And it doesn't cease to exist because you can't hug them anymore. And that grief, honestly, is for the living. It's not for the dead. They're good. They're going on and doing what they need to go do. And they come back. They come back when they've situated themselves and gotten their bearings as to, this new place that they are. They come back, they visit, they give you advice that, but yeah, grief is definitely for the living. And that was a realization I had to come to, that the grief for me was in not being able to hug them like I always had. But if you ask, they will. They'll still give you energy hugs. It's the craziest thing.
I can attest to that, because when my Aunt Lisa died, she stuck around for a good couple of months after she passed. And she's the type that wants to micromanage everything. So she wanted to be around on the funeral and with all her stuff, you know what I mean? So, and of course, me being who I am, I could feel her, and she loved it when I was going live. She would pinch me. She didn't realize how sensitive I am, and I can feel the smallest little thing. And so one time she pinched me so hard, I flinched on the live show, and she would, in the astral, she would come and give me bear hugs and, and stuff like that. So I know for a fact that we do keep going on. It's not just some belief or whatever. I know for a fact that this is the way it is. And she was just so full of life. Just the way she was whizzing around, and it was wonderful. It was wonderful to experience that, knowing that she was, no more pain now, no more of the stuff that she was going through. And there is, I got proof that, so I'm totally not afraid of dying at all. Matter of fact, I'm kind of looking forward to it, in the sense that, you know what I mean?
Oh, I do.
I'm hoping that's going to be better over there than what it is here, so.
Yeah.
But yeah.
When I saw my mom for the first time after she passed, I didn't recognize her right away, because she was like a 20-year-old. She was very young, and her hair was dark and longer. And then when I went through some old pictures, I saw that she was a bit of a glamour girl back in the day, right? And so my mom was having fun. I didn't have a lot of contact with her after she died, because I felt that she was off in just having full adventure. But every year, which happens to be on Halloween, is the anniversary of her death. I usually make a cup of tea for her and a cup of tea for me. And I sit down, I just tell her what's going on with the grandkids and this and that, although she probably already knows. And then another thing that's weird with me is quite often relatives will come and see me on their way out when they die. And these are not necessarily the people I'm closest to. I never know. My one brother who died, I didn't see him. I didn't expect to see him, but I totally felt his passing and knew that he was gone. And he went early. It was a suicide, so he went earlier. But I totally knew that he had passed. And an aunt who I actually wasn't really close to. Surprise, surprise, she came to see me. I was dreaming. It was while I was asleep, and she was wearing this beautiful white lace gown, and she looked a little bit younger than what she would look like when she passed away. She looked a little bit younger than that, but basically she looked the same. And she just hugged me and gave me this huge bear hug. And then she was gone. And so I knew before the family started putting on Facebook that she had passed. I already knew that she had passed, right? And so it's kind of cool. I'm sort of open for anything spiritual. I don't want to say it's like this or it's like that, because I don't want to put, concrete blocks around my beliefs, because I like the surprises. But at the same time, I felt really good about that one aspect of my visit back with my grandchildren, because they really got it, and they got it so easily. And now they get to, when they want to, if they want to, they can practice meeting me in the rose garden. So I thought that was really quite delightful that they wanted to try doing that. So we'll see. I'll keep you all posted on the rose garden.
Yeah.
I definitely want to hear that.
Yeah, it's a great idea. To teach them young. Mine are too young to talk about that. Yeah, but yeah, that's give me some ideas coming up here. Yeah.
Well, I'm basically winging it. I've never been a grandma before. I don't know really that much about it. Our grandparents, I didn't see a lot of them except for one, which was my stepdad's mother. And she was funny. She had so many funny beliefs, but I never was offended by her. I really loved her a lot and miss her. And she added an element of stability to my life. And I want, at the very least, to add an element of stability to my grandchildren's life, if possible. And I actually did tell their parents, my daughter and her husband, about what I had told the girls, so they knew I wouldn't do it behind their back. And they were fine with it. And they thought, oh, that can be your job to tell them those hard things.
Exactly.
We haven't quite figured it out yet, but they've read my book, so they know I'm pretty weird, but they already kind of knew that before. So I wanted to just quickly mention from the live chat a few people. Of course, we've got Denise. Denise is my new moderator. I'm thrilled to bits with her. She's at every show, and so far she hasn't had to do too much refereeing, but it's nice to know she's there so I can just get busy with the podcast. We also had Rudy. I'm not sure how to pronounce your name, Rudy. Rudy Irahita with Autism Homestead. And he just popped in to say hi. And then, of course, we had Helena Nyborg, and she is another one of my favorite Viking women. And she says, just playing PlayStation 5 this late night in southeast point of Sweden by the ocean beach. Have a great awakening from Q17. I'm not sure what the other numbers or letters mean. But she's been real regular to the show, too. I always appreciate, I don't know why, I have a little bit of a fan thing for the whole Viking thing. I watched on, it was a little hard to take because I'm not good with digesting a lot of violence, but that series on Netflix called Vikings, and then the second one called Vikings Valhalla. Oh, man, I found it super interesting, and I just loved it. And I love that whole thing. And then a lot of our what they call cosplay and Dungeons and Dragons and stuff also spins off of that whole way of having spirituality and life, approach to life. When I was back on the coast, I was also playing Magic the Gathering, which is a card game, a little bit like Dungeons and Dragons. I play that with my son-in-law. He's into it. I'm kind of into it. I don't really have anyone to play with, but I always play when I go visit him, and I really enjoy that. So it's interesting how all these cultures have ended up coming together to form a sort of universal modern culture where we can kind of understand each other regardless of where you live in the world and was kind of cool too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm with you. I absolutely love the Viking series. Not sure how historically accurate it may or may not be, but it's a great series. But I wanted to add something when it comes to the topic of death. I don't think anyone should be scared of death. Uh, Personally, death has never bothered me, but suffering does.
Mm.
Suffering bothers me a lot. And having watched both my parents go through hospice and die at home, I'm not entirely sure that I would want to do that. Honestly, die at home, yeah, but the natural process of it is torture. It's absolute torture. They end up starving to death till the organs shut down, and it's a very long process. Can take days, weeks, sometimes months to go through that. Personally, I just hope mine's quick. Whatever it is, I just hope it's quick. But yeah, I'm with you. The violence can sometimes get to me a little bit, you know.
Yeah. And I agree. I have a hard time with suffering. I really do. And not just personally going through it, but watching other people go through it. I'm very empathetic and I can feel what that's like. Here in Canada, Nina, you're also Canadian. They have the MAID program, which is medically assisted in death. And now they're bringing it out, not just for people who are going to die anyway and are suffering, but they're now giving it to want to give it to people who have mental health issues, autism, and what they call mature youths, which means children who can get it done without even their parents knowing about it. That's the way the laws are structured here in Canada. But what they're not telling people is, like, there are quick ways to die. They are not giving them quick ways to die. They're giving them paralytics so they can't move. And then they're giving them drugs where they slowly suffocate in their own lung fluids. So it's not even a good way to die. And where they got these drugs from is leftovers from the American penitentiary system, where they would kill people, criminals. And then they stopped killing the criminals. They had all these leftover drugs. And so they started giving them or selling them to the Canadian government to use to euthanize people. And to me, that's not euthanizing. I don't want to go that way. That's a horrible way to go, you know?
That's horrible.
Horrible. Yeah, I
horrible.
talked about this on a different show, and I wouldn't be surprised that they give you the paralytics but let you stay alive long enough so you look like you're dead, right, to your relatives or whatever, but you're still alive.
But you're suffering.
So they can harvest your organs.
That's why. That's it. Bingo, Nina. So they can harvest your organs. That's what it's about. It's about money. Gross.
It's got to be, if they're letting that many people do it up there. I mean, Colorado has assisted suicide, but it's one of those things where you have to have 2 doctors sign off that you'll be dead in 6 months anyway, kind of thing. And you have to have a terminal illness, but they don't give that. They give you a lethal dose of morphine.
Right.
Hey, I'd be into that.
I'd be down for that. I told my husband, I said, if anything happens and I'm terminal, I'd want to go out on my own terms with morphine, because I know what morphine does. And morphine has this great quality to it that also makes it very dangerous. But when you can't breathe anymore, your brain will freak out. And you'll start gasping for breath, and it's a torturous thing. But morphine tells your brain that it's fine. So you don't.
Heroin and even the F drug that I don't want to mention because I don't want my YouTube taken down, that new, even stronger. But they're all in the same family, and they make you feel absolutely lovely when you're crossing over. So why
Mhm.
not use those? Why use this other? Well,
Mhm.
because Nina hit the nail on the head.
Yeah, yeah,
It's all about money.
It's
So
all about money.
it's got to
when it's
be.
time for me to go, if I have an undue amount of suffering and I'm a burden to my children, then I will look at quicker ways. But otherwise, yeah, I don't want to. I don't know. You never really know what you're going to do until you get there. But I
Mhm.
do know I have seen people who have had enormous amount of suffering for years and years and years with cancer and the treatments for cancer and the chemotherapy and the radiation and the
Mhm.
hoping they're going to get better and then the relapsing and the going through. It's barbaric. Our medical system is barbaric. And I'm
Mhm.
more afraid of the medical system than I am of dying. In fact, please
Yeah.
don't take this as medical advice. It's not, but in my own personal opinion, I stay as
Mhm.
far away from the medical profession as I can because I have had really bad experiences and I don't trust it anymore. Just don't.
I'm with you. They almost killed me
I'm with
too.
you there too. Yeah, I'm with you all the way there.
Yeah,
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 it's scary.
yeah.
Mhm.
yeah. It's all about money. And
Yeah.
it's huge bureaucracies. I don't know if you guys have seen, but if you go into any of the big cities, they have all these high-rise medical buildings. This is for this kind of cancer and that kind of cancer. And everyone's trying to raise money for cancer and wear pink for cancer. Well, if money was going to cure cancer, we would have cured it a long time ago. Actually, I do think there's cures for cancer.
There
Cheap
already
and
is. Yeah.
easy cures. But
Mhm.
we live under, like what you were saying earlier, Nina, we live in some kind of a system where the medical and the political and the religious, and it's all part of the same contorted, I don't know. I don't even want to call it reality because I'm not buying into it.
I know
Mm-mm.
it's kind of funny you said that because remember it was a couple of years ago now, the royals got diagnosed with cancer.
Mm-hmm.
You had
Mhm.
Kate and then you have Charles both. And I had a feeling that, oh boy, here we go. There's going to be some kind of cure for cancer coming up. And sure enough, as 6 months or a year later, they were talking about this, are we allowed to say the word now? The V, not you,
Mm-hmm.
uh, cure for cancer, sure enough. But
Mm-hmm.
then since then, it's kind of died down. I haven't really heard anything about that lately. So I don't know if they just pulled it for some reason. Did we switch timelines or what happened there? But all of a sudden, we don't hear about that. It's like they're, never mind. We're not going to give it out to the masses anyways or something like, I don't know. But
Yeah,
It's
they
all
yeah.
about the money. It's all about the
yeah,
money. So if they have a certain amount of jobs, a certain amount of bureaucracy being carried by all that, they're not going to want to switch it over to a cure and have all those people out of work and have all that equipment. And
yeah.
just like they're going on and on about global warming and how we have to stop using petroleum products. Meanwhile, have you seen the mountain of plastics used in the pharmaceutical and medical industry? Where do you think all that comes from? Like, people just aren't thinking clearly. Anyway, I guess we're getting off topic and we're kind of almost at the end of the show. I don't want to cut either one of you off, though. Any comments from the live chat? Now's a good time to put them in the live chat. And Jennifer and Nina, please do, any final thoughts and any summaries you want to do. And of course, where can people find you and talk about your shows? Well, Jennifer, you're part of the Forbidden Knowledge Network, and you don't have an actual show of your own yet, do
I
you?
don't.
I keep pushing you. I'm sorry. I don't mean to.
I'm married into the family. What can I
Yeah,
say?
you're married into the family. There you go. But
Um,
yeah.
yeah. Parting words. Don't be scared to death. Um, it's a wonderful new beginning, and try to be good to one another. We're all here just walking each other home,
Mm-hmm.
and I do believe that if we can reach and hold the love vibration, that things will change because it is contagious. And I have seen this. I've if anyone hasn't looked into it, look at what's happening in Israel right now.
Mm-hmm.
People are refusing to fight. they're leaving the country. They're having a big problem because they can't, they're telling people they have to join the military by mandation, and they're going, okay, we're going to go somewhere else. All the smart people are leaving. That's why they're freaking out.
Mm-hmm.
But, just try to find the love in your heart for not just yourself, of course, yourself, but for the ones that you feel like you shouldn't love. The ones that hurt you, the ones that are making a mess of the world right now. Hold love for them too. I promise it will change. It will change. We're at a crossroads, and I feel like the average person, they know. They feel drawn to what feels good, and war and violence does not feel good.
Mm-mm.
So, just parting words. Be good to each other. Walk each other home. And I'm Jennifer Halcame. You can find me anywhere on Facebook. And you feel free to email me at jenniferhalcame@gmail.com. Thanks so much.
Wonderful. Lovely. Lovely. Nina.
Yeah, I got to piggyback off that. I mean, yeah, trying to stay in that love frequency, I do believe there is hope. And so what you can do is, love each other, spread the love, talk about death if that's coming up, because there's so much quietness around that because of all the religious guilt and whatever. And we need to snap out of that, which is another thing that's going to be happening. People are going to be snapping out of it, but it's also going to make them very confused. And so they're going to need people to talk to. And so, hopefully you can be that for your immediate circle there, and just trying to stay in that love frequency, and if you guys need somebody to talk to, I am available. I do private sessions. All you have to do is email me, and the email's right there. Or get a hold of me on the different social medias. I am definitely available. And so I'd love to hear from you guys. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Wonderful. Yes, I encourage my audience to reach out to both you and Jennifer. And both of you offer services. I offer services, all kinds of, whatever you resonate with is probably the right pick for you. But there's no competition. We all love each other and support each other, and we believe it's all good. And I want to thank everybody for joining us on the Quantum Guide Show today. I look forward to seeing you at the Aliens and Angels podcast on Sunday, if you can come back for that. Please share this out with your family and your friends, and please also feel free to leave comments. And I guess that's about it for today. Just going to quickly check the chat. We got Denise saying, thank you so much, Nina and Jennifer. Beautiful messages. And Helena says, love and light. Wonderful. And I guess that's it for today. Thank you both, my wonderful guests. I really, really appreciate you and love these discussions that we're having. So until next time, everybody, take good care of yourselves, and we'll see you next time on the Quantum Guide Show. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye, Karen. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you for joining me for the Quantum Guide Show. Become the change that you wish to see in the world. Subscribe to my YouTube and other channels at Karen Holton TV. Click the like button, leave me a comment, and share this podcast with your friends. Read about my true life ET contact in my book called Transdimensional: Meet the New Neighbors, which is now available in Amazon bookstores worldwide. Check out my website at www.KarenHoltonHealthCoach.com to see my free resources and amazing products and services. All the links will be in the description below. As part of the Forbidden Knowledge Network, you will find the Quantum Guide Show with Karen Holton and also the Aliens and Angels podcast on all audio platforms. Until next time, keep up the good work.